So at the end of last week, after Trump announced his new tariffs, the stock market absolutely tanked. Now, Bitcoin is still holding up relatively well. Why is that? In today's video, we'll be discussing exactly that. What happened at the end of last week? How did stocks react to the news? And how Bitcoin is still holding up relatively well. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So the NASDAQ is technically in a bear market following a 6% drop on Friday, which was the largest drop since March 2020. US stocks have now erased a massive $11 trillion since February 19th, with recession odds above 60%, as we discussed in my previous video. And how does it look in terms of history? As of Friday's close, multiple market indices were in bear market territory, including the NASDAQ, the Russell, the Nikkei, and the Magnificent 7. The S&P 500 fell over 10% in a matter of 2 days for the seventh time in history. This was only last seen in 2020, 2008, and 1997. Now, looking at Bitcoin, what we can see here is that, yes, today on Saturday, it's a red candle, but we have still been holding up relatively well. Now, I have been taking a look at some of the theories on Twitter, and a lot of people are saying that we bottomed out around here, March 11th, when Bitcoin hit $76,000, and that Bitcoin was actually predicting the move that was to happen in the stock market at the end of last week. I'm not so convinced, but I have to say, for what I consider the gold of the 21st century, if Bitcoin is able to hold up here and continue to hold this 81K level, it would be looking very positive. We can also see that even with all of this turmoil, BlackRock were accumulating Bitcoin, around $65 million worth of Bitcoin within their spot ETF. So what can we say here? I mean, the next area of resistance is still up here, right around the 86.5 to 87.5K level, but there's a chance that we don't even have enough juice to go up there in the first place. I personally still think that we will be heading lower, especially with all of this market uncertainty. So whether you think we're going lower or higher, you can definitely trade this price action because volatility is opportunity. If you'd like to trade this price action, whether you think Bitcoin will be going up or down, you can click the first link in my description down below. It'll bring you directly to weeks where you can earn a 50% deposit bonus. That means that if you deposit just $2,000 into your account, you get $1,000 back for trading purposes. All you need is an email and a password to sign up. It's super easy, super intuitive to trade. So if you'd like to trade crypto, make sure to sign up with the first link in my description down below. And what I also wanted to show you here is the ETH Bitcoin chart. We're now approaching a very important support level, which we held as support back in 2019, 2020. Yes, we have to go that far back. ETH against Bitcoin is now looking like it's going to break the 0.02 level. If it breaks this level, we can expect to hopefully bottom out within here before seeing a move to the upside. Again, I'm still not giving up on Ethereum, but with everything that's been happening in the broader markets, this is no surprise. And taking a look at some of the additional data on the stock market, on Thursday alone, hedge funds sold $40 billion of stocks in their largest daily selling spree since 2010. Short sales exceeded longs by 3 times, with North American stocks accounting for 75% of the volume. Is capitulation near? Something to point out here is that while the hedge funds did run for the exit, a lot of retail investors kept on dollar cost averaging into stocks, and they bought $4.7 billion of stocks on Thursday alone. This was the largest daily purchase by retail investors since all the way back 2015, which is an interesting predicament because if hedge funds are selling but retail is buying, what does it actually mean? Then the crazy part here is that on Friday, within a 2.5 hour time frame, retail investors sold $1.5 billion of equities, which was the largest sale over a 2.5 hour period in history. Yes, we're making history, but not in the right way. Retail has been adamantly buying the dip since 2022, but it appears that this trend might be shifting. On Thursday alone, the Magnificent 7 stocks erased nearly $1 trillion of market cap, which surpassed the previous record of $759 billion set on March 10th. The S&P 500 also lost $2.7 trillion on Thursday, which also means that 37% of that market cap loss came from the Magnificent 7, something to consider. Also, they're currently down 30% from the all-time high, which might explain why the sentiment is so bearish, with the fear and greed index for stocks at 4 single digits. 4. Now, is this a moment to buy the fear, or should you just be waiting it out? Personally, I will be trading the market, but I will most certainly be waiting it out in terms of buying new positions, especially if we're talking about altcoins within the crypto sector. Because if stocks continue to crash, altcoins ultimately have no choice. Now, of course, I'm making use of this volatility and trading on weeks, but ultimately, I would not want to catch falling knives, which has been the message that I've been sharing on this channel since Bitcoin essentially peaked. Be careful with your spot bags, because before you know it, they can go much, much lower. Now, I talked about the fact that Bitcoin has been holding relatively well, and we have seen this. As we can see here on this chart, Bitcoin compared to the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is completely nuked, but Bitcoin is still holding on, or at least trying to. But the question is, what if Bitcoin isn't holding so well and it was all just Saylor and other whales buying with size, and now we're about to nuke during the weekend? Let's see how it goes. Obviously, I will be updating you over the course of the weekend, but right now, all things considered, Bitcoin just below $83,000, but all of these stocks have nuked. Not so bad yet if you're a Bitcoin investor. And actually, we have Kramer here that came out and said that he predicts a stock market crash similar to the 1987 collapse known as Black Monday. Now, if he's calling for something as drastic as this, usually the inverse plays out. Just saying. Let's see what actually happens. One thing that I'll bring to your attention, though, is that Warren Buffett is indeed holding over $330 billion in cash, and there were reports of him continuously selling off a lot of his shares in companies to accumulate as much cash as possible. This guy is arguably one of the most legendary investors of all time. So if he's been stacking cash over the past few years, wouldn't you think that a bigger correction is about to happen? And to give you a little bit of a perspective in terms of stocks, the current move from the S&P 500 is only half the size of the move that we got in March of 2020. Would you buy the dip here, or do you expect us to move lower? Leave your comment down below, because I'd love to know your thoughts. And the last thing I wanted to go over are comments from the legendary trader GCR posted in August of 2022. Traders will often reach out to me inquiring as to why crypto is showing relative strength or weakness relative to equities. I will usually tell them to wait before drawing conclusions. More often than not, we are simply witnessing a laggard effect. Do you believe this to be true? Not to spread fear, but this has historically just been the reality. And that sums up today's video. What do you think? Is the bottom in for stocks and Bitcoin? And will we just move on higher this week? Or do you think there's going to be some more uncertainty with Trump's tariffs? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.